Hello, welcome to a special episode of Back to the City. I'm Simon Calder, and today I'm joined by my friend Katie. Welcome, Katie.
Hi.
I'm excited, first and foremost, because we're on the cusp of playing a show.
Yeah.
By the time this comes out, that will be next month, so June 8th, Thursday, June 8th. And that's with one of your bands, Butter Boys.
Yep.
You'll be closing the night playing at 11, and I will have performed my Hum record release set by then, so I'm looking forward to letting loose and having lots of fun.
Yeah.
And fun, it struck me, is a very intentional, serious. Fun is seriously important, I think, for Butter Boys. Looking at the bio, mixing pop sensibilities with punk attitude, the Butter Boys will loudly and proudly give you all the permission you require to dance, headbang, and sing into your hairbrush microphone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And fun is a word that shows up in a number of the songs on the After Hours Superpowers Butter Boys record, and in some of the new Ghost Kitchen material as well.
Yeah.
Before we say a little bit more about what Ghost Kitchen is as well, could you reflect a little bit on this focus on fun? It comes up in lots of the lyrics, and I think it's very important that we give people permission to dance and so on.
Totally. Fun is something that, like you said, you put it perfect. I take it very serious. In both like my art world and then in my work, I do a lot of political work. And when I was running campaigns, my first rule was we have to have fun, and it's a necessity, because like especially in that work and kind of anytime you're in like a grinding situation, like being a musician, being an artist, it can suck. Like there's just a lot of heartbreak that comes with it. There's a lot of long nights, there's a lot of interpersonal things, and so like being grounded and like making sure that your priority is having a good time, whether the time is good or not, is very important to me. Yeah, just like as a person. Because yeah, the world is weird, and I think it's really easy to forget that we should be having fun while we're here. Like that's kind of the point of being alive, is like enjoying your time and like enjoying the people that you're with, and even, and it's not like everything has to be rainbows and roses and that every situation is going to be fun, but like being grounded of like, let's find the fun of this, is just something I take very serious.
I think, so you said grounded, we can ground that message in Messy Bessie, where they say I have no fun. I think I am.
Yeah, yeah.
So there it is, enacted.
Totally.
There. And the music is so fun as well, the way in which it sounds. So in Bay and in Roundabout, I think those two songs both do what the opening verse of Bay says it will do. I could go on and on and on, but I think I'd rather show you. Those two songs, they build up, and the sense of fun and the sense of allowing oneself to be what might otherwise be considered too much.
Yeah.
There's a few lyrics across different songs where there's an awareness that somebody looking on might think that one is too something.
Yeah, too much of anything.
Yes, but these two songs build up. What thoughts do you have on my kind of hypothesis that those two songs in particular are enacting what Bay says, which is I could go on and on and on, but I think I'd rather show you.
Especially in those two songs. So like in Roundabout, it's just a simple song, and like it's even in the name. I wrote the first verse and chorus, and I'm like, I think I'm just gonna repeat that, because it's like talking about a roundabout, and it's talking about like this, I don't know, this like circular action of like, I'm here, you want to leave, like always. I don't really want to do that. You say that it's over here, but I don't really even know where it is, so I'm just going to hang out on this roundabout and go around and around and around and around.
No mistake, I'm still lovely, but I have changed my style.
Musically, it's about that build-up of like, we're saying the same thing, but like each verse feels different.
It does. And I like that the pivot point each time is make no mistake, I'm still lovely, but I've changed my style,
Yeah.
and then the style changes.
Yeah.
Right on cue.
Yeah, exactly. Totally. Yeah. My writing style, it kind of like is word salad at the beginning. And then a lot of times it starts making way more sense as it goes along. A lot of times it's just like humming a melody. My melodies come first, and then finding a word that sticks in that melody. Like while I'm like humming along, figuring it out, there will be like a few words that fit in whatever that melody is, and then typically I kind of build around that and try to build like an idea, so it's not just like a bunch of random words,
Yes.
but like an idea that goes along with that. And then as like the process goes along with like working with the band on like the instrumentation of it too, and like finding like where the melody meets like the instruments and how we can like emphasize, then usually the narrative kind of takes hold a little bit more. So it's really working together as opposed to like thinking of a story and then writing about that story. It's like the story came from the music and then they weave itself together.
And it begins with humming.
Yeah, usually.
Okay.
I'm just kind of humming along, like, because we'll like be jamming and then it's like, that sounds cool. We should like, that should be a song or something. And especially with After Hours Superpowers, now our writing style as a band is a little bit different, but specifically for like our earlier stuff and for After Hours Superpowers, it would be like just hanging out and jamming, and then being like, oh yeah, that sounds like a song. That sounds like it could be a song. And then as we're practicing and building that song out, me is just like being the person that's singing and like writing the lyrics and melody. I'm just kind of like, la 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 la, and like finding what will fit, or something that doesn't fit but sounds cool, and then going from there.
And then figuring out how
And then
to
figuring
integrate
it out. Yeah.
What is the place of this, and how can the whole thing evolve
Yeah.
in a way that is led by this interesting component.
Yeah.
I was smiling when you were saying all of that because I wanted to ask you the kinds of questions that would yield that kind of reflection on your particular songwriting process.
Yeah.
Because both in the record Hum and in the book that I was working about creativity that kind of came from my focus on the creative process with lots of different musicians on the Back to the City show, it also kind of continues my pre-Minneapolis scholarship, which is why
Yeah.
it's Dr. Calder.
Yeah.
Who does he think he is? Dr. Calder. But it's funny. I like fun and play too.
Yeah. Totally. I mean, that's why we get along so well.
Yes, but the record is called Hum. And part of the reason why the record is called, and you were saying the songwriting starts with humming.
Yeah.
And part of the reason why it's called Hum is because both the record and the book explore the role that music plays in living well individually and collectively. And questions such as how do we break out of stories that we're telling ourselves that are kind of limiting? How do
Yep.
we refine our stories? Questions that are raised particularly by the book, but also by the songs. The song Hum is the main one, which is using music to make a case for the importance of music.
Yeah.
Do you know Brené Brown?
No.
So Brené Brown has this theory of rising strong and lists 10 different guideposts to wholehearted living. And I only bring her up in this conversation because one of the guideposts to wholehearted living is, well, two of them. One is laughter, song, and dance. So people who are not so held back by fear and shame
Yeah.
have some kind of relationship with music.
Yeah.
They sing and or dance. And your songs are encouraging that. Some of the lyrics are
Yeah.
encouraging that as well, explicitly, but the music is enacting it, encouraging it. And also play
Yeah.
and rest is another one of these 10 wholehearted living guideposts. And those 10 guideposts inform the book that I was writing and then the 10 songs
Cool.
on Hum. The story of the rising strong theory of Brené Brown came about because of basically an argument she was having with her husband in Lake Travis, and then she reflected on the way in which they navigated that argument
Yeah.
and recognized her whole theory of how to rise strong after falling flat on our face in the arena and feeling ashamed and embarrassed
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
is based on how she and her husband navigated this interpersonal conflict that they had when they happened to be swimming in the lake. But what she doesn't integrate into the theory, according to Dr. Calder, is the fact that when they're right at the height of their argument, and she begins to break free of it a little bit by saying, the story that I'm telling myself about what's happening is, you think I look bad in a swimsuit and you don't want to be with me.
Yeah.
And she captures herself in the act
Yes.
of telling her, of narrating
Yes,
this,
of narrating something, like a perspective.
and then she shares that with him.
Yeah.
And then they have that to work
Yes.
with, and they can work on revising the story.
Mm-hmm.
But so alongside that happening, which is key and really helpful, she also then says, and besides, we've got We're the Big Door Prize. So she's referencing the John Prine and Iris DeMent
Mm-hmm.
song. And I think that their shared love of that song and the meaningfulness of that song to the two of them is such an important magical component.
Yes. And that shows like the importance of like, even in situations like that, like what role music plays that's like transcends even what a lot of the artists even think it's going to be.
Absolutely,
like, you
yes.
know, just like, yeah, I'm making these songs because I want people to dance and have a great time and do whatever. But then there's also, I mean, in my life, there's a million. I can't even name how many songs when it's like, oh, this has like actual real estate in who I am as like a person.
Yeah.
And especially
My core values.
Yeah,
and-
my core values, like everything about me is wrapped up in like a bunch of different songs. And like, and it can be like a turning point in like relationships. It can be all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I
agree
see that with a lot of these songs. Kind of, they map the emotional territory of your life and the songs in a way that just a piece of writing couldn't.
Yeah, totally.
They visit this territory and do something other than mapping it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I agree with that. Totally.
So the song hum ends, if what lay beneath the water was a story of rising strong, then what sparked the revolution was a song.
Yep.
In response to my question about play and fun, you were highlighting your political work. What thoughts do you have on the idea that it's music that sparks revolution of
Definitely.
whatever kind?
I mean, I think it's like one of the first places where it starts. I think it's music for, also my second thing is do it all for the kids, because everything that we do is for the kids. That's why we do this. I want a bunch of cool kids like listening to my music and like being hooked forever, and like their formative years, like being able to hear this song and be like, yeah, Butter Boys fucking rule, Ghost Kitchen fucking rules. Like, I love them so much. It reminds me. And so a lot, especially After Hours Superpowers and actually Ghost Kitchen as well, it very much tapped into like my youth, like being a teen. That's where a lot of these feelings and ideas kind of come from. And that's what I was like thinking about a lot of the time when I was like doing my word salad and trying to remember what those feelings are. Music, like, it moves you, which is like cheesy to say, but it not just like emotionally, but like physically. Like if you're in a space and 3 people start singing a song or humming a song that you all know, like within seconds, everybody, like if everybody knows the song, like so many, you don't even know these people, and we're all like experiencing this moment together of being like, we all know this stuff. This is really fun. We don't really have many things that create like a human experience with like strangers, or like even being in like a stadium, like all these places where people get together, or not even, you can do it anywhere. Remember when like flash mobs were a thing? Like that idea, I think it's something that as humans, we just like gravitate towards interaction, but it's one type of interaction that I feel is like, doesn't hurt anybody's boundaries. Like everybody gets to be themselves in that space when they're enjoying music. People can be quiet about it and be introspective, and no one's like looking at them weird. People can be singing at the top of their lungs. It's, I think, one of those experiences that we don't have many of, where people are kind of allowed to be themselves while being in it. And I think movement like that brings people together in a common ground is what moves mountains.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think when we think of organizing, or we think of like trying to make a difference, I think it usually starts with, how do we get people together? And like one of the easiest ways to get people together is like have a band or musician or some sort of art that they like. Because there's so much value to that. Like, it's more, I mean, I don't know, there's that and food. It's like, those are the two things, is if you can feed people and if you can entertain people,
It's
you can get people
needs,
together.
aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. It's like,
Sustenance.
it seems really
Yeah.
like simple, but even in the work that I do, because I have, we have like an arts table that I'm starting, and I don't know if it's gonna even be a table, but whatever. We're trying to like bridge that gap between organizing and arts on like meeting people where it's at and changing the narrative, especially in the nonprofit world of art in general. Like art, as no matter what the genre is engaging in civics.
Yes.
And trying to like
Absolutely.
change that narrative for funders, change that narrative for people as a whole. Like, we need to be funding art, period. You shouldn't have to like apply for a grant and write a song about climate change, which is important, but like also
All music,
the person
all, yeah.
that's like doing a puppet show, like a sock puppet show in the park, is just as important in engaging in civics, and what they're doing is engaging in civics, than it is the person that is like, you know, their whole thing is like, I'm writing protest songs. Protest songs are important. The person like playing spoons somewhere is important. Like, and they're both arts, because you can't have a thriving environment without something that people want to like do. Like people, when people want like spend their free time that's not working, what do they want to do? Watch movies, listen to music, go to shows. Like those are the things that people enjoy doing.
Yeah, as humans, we always already find ourselves responsive to music
Yeah.
to some extent.
Yeah.
It's difficult to generalize about human nature, say, but it seems to be the case that being such as we are responsive to music, and
Yep.
it's visceral, even if there aren't words at all.
Totally.
And that's obviously a way in which dancing can come in. The closing lyric on the Hum record is, "Those who have an ear to hear will dance." Mm-hmm. We're going to visit 2005.
Sure.
Both the year and the song.
Yeah.
Momentarily. For me, back in 2005, I was at work on becoming doctor. I'm doctoral because I do have a PhD.
Yeah.
And so I was working on my PhD, but then obviously economic crisis was on the horizon, and there was a massive shift with the coalition government coming in England after that. And the arts and humanities were massively defunded,
Yeah.
which is how we wind up with this timeline. I
Yeah.
think they changed the timeline on me.
Yeah.
I'm quoting a Butter Voice, where Dr. Calder is not a normal professor,
Yeah.
but winds up in Minneapolis. And in my personal experience, upon arriving here as an adjunct lecturer and thinking I need to expend loads of energy and jumping through lots of different hoops to be able to have anything like the professor position I was planning to, instead I went to some open mics, played some music, witnessed just at open mics such a high caliber of songwriting and such a thriving ecosystem that I decided to pay attention to that and participate in that instead. So
I think that's a really good choice.
it's more fun.
Yeah, way more
And
fun.
I feel more, given that the arts and humanities were like losing their funding, I'm excited to have wound up continuing my scholarship journey, writing a book that's not for scholars, but for anyone who's interested in music and the question of like, what it is to be human and to collectively, and to have creativity and self-expression be more a part of that. I'm winding up writing a record as opposed to, but alongside reflecting on other people's process of writing records and demonstrating that harnessing our creativity and cultivating our relationship with music and meaning is something that as humans we can all do, whether or not we're given the authority to do so by the Ivory Tower or by grants. Obviously we can make a case that what we have to express is worthy of receiving recognition in the form of money and also beyond money, validation beyond that. But whether or not that's there, it's something that we can collectively foster.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
We'll get to 2005 in a moment.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with Poison Ivy, who are also playing, they're opening
I
our record
haven't.
show.
I haven't heard Poison Ivy.
Ivy is great. And the opening, so the interview that we're putting out with Ivy, Poison Ivy don't have any songs released yet, but they are in the process of tracking their debut single, which is called All My Friends.
Love it.
And I'll send you the interview with Ivy once it exists, because
Yes,
it's very,
please.
very similar to this conversation that we're having right now.
Cool.
The song "All My Friends" by Poison Ivy. The lyric in the chorus is, "All my friends want a revolution, but nobody wants to do the goddamn dishes."
Yeah.
And
That's amazing. Whoa, I love that so much. That's so accurate.
And Ivy delivers it so well. Nobody wants to do the goddamn dishes. But so it does that. And the verses are acknowledging and celebrating all of the ways in which Ivy's actual friends, because Ivy's reflecting on Ivy's life and experiences and connections, all of the ways in which Ivy's friends did show up in ways that seem obviously on the surface and in reality detrimental to their own personal well-being during the uprising.
Yeah.
There's very coherent themes throughout all of the bands playing on June 8th.
That's cool. I'm really excited.
And
yeah.
the way in which love comes in this, in talking about civics and ethics. Love is action. It's not just a feeling.
Yeah.
So the act of doing the dishes is a case in point of loving action. And yet the song becomes such a rich song because it is responsive to and celebrating the civic work of the actual friends as they already are.
Yeah.
And I think this is if we find ourselves in the flow of like engaging with music, those who have an ear to hear will dance, this kind of thing, then it becomes less necessary to externally like impose rules of conduct.
Yeah.
If a bunch of us are responding to this spark of we're all humming the same tune,
Yeah.
and then we just are intentional about recognizing, okay, what is enabling this to exist and to grow,
Yeah.
and then establish a consensus about, well, how do we conduct ourselves so as to maximize this valuable
Yes.
thing?
Yep. No, totally.
Do you have reflections on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the crux of all of it. That's what we want to do. It's like we're constantly, as musicians, we're looking like, how do we grow, like just our base, like, right? We want as many people to hear what we're doing when this new, like, golden age of technology, understanding how to leverage that. We're finding, like, you need to have this online presence and you need to do X, Y, and Z, but then nothing really, I think for me personally, nothing really beats like the personal experiences of like getting out there, playing shows, like being within community.
Yes.
And building those relationships like actually personally
Yes.
with your audience and people that just patron the music in general. And as fun as our online presence is, I think like what makes us all the music that we do is the feeling you get when you like come and watch a live show.
Yeah, the connection.
Yeah,
that
the
is
connection.
tangible,
That's like, and that's what at least that's what I'm hoping to do. That's what I'm trying to accomplish is how like everyone's like my best friend, like, when we're playing, like that's the whole point. It's like I just think it's really important when people take time that is very valuable. I think time is like the most valuable commodity that we have. Anytime someone is choosing to spend their time like with me in any capacity, I just think that's very meaningful. And I try to take care of that, like make sure that it's known that it's very, like, I'm very thankful of everybody and anybody that wants to, I don't know, spend an hour to 3 hours is a long time to do something on a weekend when you could be playing video games or
Yes,
hanging out.
we like that too.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, you actually want to come and not only spend money to watch me do this, but then you also want to like spend the time and like hear that. That's really rad. But it's like, how do you? That is always like the question, especially in like I said, in music and in organizing of like, we know these things work, but how do we like sustain it? And then how do we also grow and connect? And I think in the Minneapolis music scene post-pandemic, what I've noticed is, I don't know, all the bands, at least like the crews that we like play with, and it's more and more bands are like even in that. Everyone's just like super supportive of each other, period. It's like, there's no more like, it's not cool to be a jerk about anything. It's not cool to like show up late places. It's not cool to like be a rock star, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
that attitude. Even when in 2016 when I started, I was like, I don't know, like the gruff sound guy that like is rude and like it's like that shit is not fun anymore and
Right.
like
Well,
the
that's-
bands don't like it.
That is a stock character of like what the person that's working the door
Exactly.
could be like. Which is, and I spend so much time working the door.
Yeah.
Like hello.
Exactly. It's like none
Welcome.
of that. It just isn't. And especially like being a woman in music and being a black woman in rock and roll, like get a grip. Like the amount of rudeness that I just dealt with and just like, I don't know, the assumption that I don't know anything. Pre-pandemic and pre-uprising to post, at least that has gotten way better. Also, I've been doing it longer, but still, it's like, I think we all collectively are like, yeah, we're going to be nice to people. And
Let's value this and help it grow. And you use the word sustain. How do we sustain this?
Yeah.
Another of the hum lyrics is, this is the way we sustain it.
Yeah.
That's this in a song called Our Hummingbird Hearts. The hummingbird is a metaphor throughout the record. Hummingbirds, obviously in daytime, flit around and they cross-pollinate. Elizabeth Gilbert, who's someone else who reflects on the nature of creativity in a book called Big Magic, it says that they aerate the culture. So there is a certain type of a creative person who's like a hummingbird. But hummingbirds at nighttime go into a hibernation type state.
Totally.
And that's the only way in which they can live more than a day.
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And their body temperature changes from 50 Fahrenheit to 104, and their
Whoa.
heart rate changes. Ben Johnston from Self Evident is
Yeah.
playing drums
Cool.
with me on the record and at the show. And he goes from half time to double time. There's
Cool.
3 different ratios.
Yeah,
in
that makes
song
sense.
To
To, like,
demonstrate like
the hummingbird.
flying at daytime and then torpor at nighttime.
Yeah.
And the song is inviting the hummingbird person to share their full story. This is, tell us about torpor, it's your story, be its author. The trail is made by tracking it and working with the law. Tell us how you renew who you are. And this is related, I think.
Yeah, totally,
And
100%.
The importance of rest.
Rest is like the most important, next to fun.
Yes.
Butter Boys right now, we play. That's one thing I do. I play a lot of shows.
I
play-
noticed.
Yeah.
I enjoy that.
Yeah, I know. We play a lot of, just in general, because like, and I'm also in a band, High Tiny Hairs too, but that's a Ben Bachman thing. I play
Yeah.
keys in that. So now I'm in 3 bands.
Joe as well.
Oh yeah, Joe Holland.
Joe Holland.
Joe
yes.
Holland and Monet.
Yes.
Yeah, best band. It's really fun, and Ben like rules, and it's like so much fun to play like, just because I lead Ghost Kitchen and Butter Boys, and so it's really nice to not lead a band and to show up and be able to just play my keys and like play and just add to these really fun, good songs.
To
And he's a
just to be a
genius.
part of the ecosystem.
Yeah, and that's it. And we're finding that too more. That's a part of that ecosystem of like, I think we've all gotten to a point where when you find people that you like working with, and we all are very committed to being in a band. It's not like a hobby. It's very much like, this is our lives and this is what our jobs are, what sustain us to be able to do this.
Yeah.
And luckily we all like our jobs too, so it's good in that respect. We're not like getting burnt out by the work, but the band stuff comes first. And we're all just working to one day sustain so that we don't have to like do anything else other than like create in all of our different
Yes.
avenues, because we're all multi-talented artists in like every way. We all work really well together, and we have different things, so let's just like switch it up and be in a million different bands together and,
Yes.
and figure it out so we can play as many shows and meet as many people as possible.
Yeah.
it's been
Hummingbirds, cross-pollinated.
Yeah.
So I promised you we'd go to 2005, and now this is the ideal seg, because have you seen the Naughties?
Yeah,
Yeah.
love the Naughties.
Yeah, they're good. Hella bass and hella drums.
Yeah.
like in
Yep.
2005. So the character in 2005 has seen a band that they like, and they really know how to shred. Have I told you I'm starting a band? I'm starting a band now. Have I told you I'm starting a band? Because I've got a bunch of songs in my teeny tiny little head.
Yeah.
You go from having a bunch of songs in your teeny tiny little head to having a bunch of bands from High Tiny Hairs to both Ghost Kitchen, where you lead vocals and guitar.
Yep. And now I'm playing bass too.
Bass as well, okay.
Yeah.
And Butter Boys, where you'll lead vocals and keys. One of the key things I was interested to ask you about today is what you've just brought up, the experience of being in these different roles in the multiple music making entities.